I'm Dan O'Day, and that's Jim Johnson of the Accents class. Jim, I've noticed in your coaching and in your teaching that you spend a lot of time focusing on both intonation and placement. And not only do you spend a lot of time on it, but you attack it from all kinds of different directions. You'll use different verbiage to describe it at different times. Why is that?
Well, describing it in different ways, it's going to give different people access to it. Some people may struggle with one description, but another description may work with them. And in fact, one of my favorite things to do is to actually, once somebody finds their way towards something, to actually ask them to describe it, because oftentimes that makes it the most accessible way for them to hold on to it. She didn't want to be put in a book.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. That's where the land of estuary is. And this is this intonation that's going to be crucial for other accents coming up, where it is that slight off pitch quality. She didn't want to be put in a book. And it is. And I do think that it helps to be sort of curvilinear with it, like literally making sure that you do some, there's somebody that I know who speaks in this accent, and he is a draper. Whenever he never sits in a chair. He always drapes in a chair, And it is that feeling of draping that very much brings us to the center of this. Where it crossed over into RP was artistic feelings.
Mm.
When you had that one right there. Yeah? It wanted to go sort of back into that. You were so busy feeling your grand artistic feelings. And when it sort of got crisp like that, can you hear what I'm talking about?
Yeah. No, I was kind of aware. There was a certain point where a little alarm went off in my head, and that was around there. That it was too much. It was too.
Yeah.
Crisp is the right word, but.
And I think I'm glad that crisp works for you. And if there's another word that describes it that feels really good, always let me know what that is. Like how you describe that. Or so then when you found it again, or when you came back to that line about she didn't want to be put in a book, how would you describe that one? What's an adjective or an adverb that you want to assign to that one?
Well, I kind of let it relax, just kind of, I get a little sloppy with it.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a little bit more sloppy. So like with the Cockney, we had to be really in place with the placement. And with the RP, we had to be absolutely in place with the placement as well. And this one's a little bit more in the middle, and it's actually pretty close to, right now I've gone back to my accent. And if I go from my accent into that, I don't feel like I need to make a significant shift of any kind in the placement. I think the placement's pretty close. So it can feel a little less definite because it's not as much extreme either way. That sort of thing. It's right in that land in between where it can feel a little bit mushy. Absolutely. So
mushy. Right.
That it feels that relaxed is a good adjective for you. So relaxing it just that bit. And so I would say, like on that line, just relaxing it that bit, that may help you. For some people, it helps for them to think of it being almost like surfer dude British or a little bit of stoner British, man. What are you doing? And that is what the Austin Powers, which is that cartoon version of this, plays into. Yeah, baby. And it is that sort of schmammy that lives in that off-pitch element.
You really have that down, I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you. My wife actually fell out of love with me because of my schmarmy. She felt committed and she's followed through. She stuck with me. You
changed your intonation. Yeah.
And into my next schmarmy phase and continues with me through my schmarm. Yeah.
Well, I admire her consistency and dedication. Yeah.
And foolishness. It works for me anyway. Yes. So let's go back to that line where it felt like I got a little bit more posh and see if you can relax that even more.
You're so busy feeling your grand artistic feelings, you couldn't see what was in front of you.
Yeah. Now there's moments when you're almost wanting to add a little flourish to it. Take away that flourish. Let it be even more relaxed version of that flourish.
You're so busy feeling your grand artistic feelings, you couldn't see what was in front of you.
Yeah, that's great. Now, the tweak I want to give you is it started to be the Austin Powers thing where it was happening almost all the time. So this is where the intonation of an accent, of any accent that we're looking at, it's always going to come out the strongest on an operative word. So if we look at that line, what's a word or two or three that you stress?
Feeling, the first feeling, and let's just say couldn't.
Great.
So now you couldn't see.
Words, yeah. The other ones, don't let yourself give into it. You were so busy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you were so busy. Sort of go straight down the line as you continue until you get to the next one.
I think I know what you're saying. You were so busy feeling your grand artistic feelings, you couldn't see what was in front of you.
Yeah, so you spread that out to couldn't see. And that's exactly how it occurs. That's where again, all accents, the intonation is going to come out on those operative words. The other place where intonation will tend to come out is right at the end of a phrase. That's the other place. But operative word is incredibly important for this. That the big thing I'd say with the end of the phrase for this one is it just doesn't get too clunk. It needs to land.
Oh, of course.
It's the landing of the plane again. Yeah, that it's such an American thing. So so I wasn't hearing the plane crash. I wasn't hearing the clunk. So
that's good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what you did now is you sort of, it's almost like you didn't worry about anything being there for intonation until you got to an operative, and then you kind of leaned into it a little bit.
Yes.
Both metaphorically and a little bit literally. Like I think that you actually curved your body a little bit more on the operative. And that's exactly, that's a physical manifestation of what is happening with the intonation. And you know me, I love the physicalization of the intonation and what a difference that makes.